Chapter 25, Winslow was curious.
Winslow was increasingly curious, testing his curiosity most often with his mouth. He ate through 2 power cords, fortunately they were unplugged, and nibbled plastic buckets, newspapers, and jackets. He licked an oil spill on the garage floor, munched on the doorframe, and chomped on an old tarp. Winslow trotted from one thing to another, smelling and tasting. Every few minutes he returned to Louie and bumped him with his head, as if to say, "I am still here. Are you?" "He's like a little lamb," Max said. "He follows you everywhere. He probably thinks you're his mother." "What?" "Well, think about it. You're the only parent he has known. He doesn't even know what another donkey is. He doesn't even know that he is a donkey. He probably thinks he's a human like you." That night, Louie dreamed that his own parents were donkeys. In his dream, he thought, "Then I must be a donkey too." Winslow brayed as if in response. That sound, maybe it came from outside, and maybe it was in his dream. Louie could not be sure, for he was still in his dream. Chapter 26. Winslow, Winslow. One morning, when Louie went out to the pen to feed Winslow before going to school, the pen was empty and the gate was open. "Did I forget to close it?" Louie wondered. "I'm sure I closed it. I'm nearly certain I did. Did I?" He dashed down the street and through backyards, calling for the donkey. "Winslow! Winslow!" His parents and Mac joined in the search. All along the streets were calls of "Winslow! Winslow!" as they ducked in and out of driveways and poked in bushes. No Winslow. No sign of him. No sound of him. "I can't go to school," Louie told his parents. "But we have to go to work." "Fine, but I have to stay and look for Winslow." Mac said, "I'll stay too. Louie and I can both look for Winslow, and if we find him, when we find him," Louie corrected. "Okay, when we find him, then we'll go to school." They returned to the pen to see if the donkey had left a trail of any kind, but other than the normal patches of scuffed earth where Winslow and Louie frequently walked, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. "I hope he didn't wander into the road," Max said. "Don't think it. Maybe he's asleep in someone's garden." And so they searched, up and down the street, up and down driveways, crossing backyards and front yards, their calls for Winslow bringing neighbors to their windows and doors. "You lose your donkey?" "Haven't seen any donkey around today." "Who's Winslow?" "Is Winslow your dog?" Louie ran to the next block, and the next, and the next. He called for Winslow, louder and louder. Drivers asked if he was okay. Grandmothers came to their doors, peering out at this boy running through the neighborhood. Must have lost his dog. My dog used to get out all the time. I bet he's got a dog like that. Louie felt increasingly desperate. He begged the air. "Please, please, Winslow, please, where are you?" He tried to imagine where Winslow might go. He could be wandering around, lost and afraid. Louie had a sudden image of sledding down the hill with Winslow and being tickled by his ears. The sledding hill? The snow would be long gone. The hill would be grassy, but maybe Winslow had wandered that far. And so Louie went in that direction. He was tired now. He could barely breathe, his insides so full of fear and worry and pain. He could not imagine losing Winslow. He did not want to let his thoughts go there. He rounded the corner of the road, and something caught his eye as he glanced up to the top of the hill. Something or someone was up there. The sun was behind it, and in the glare, all Louie could see was an odd, lumpy shape. Chapter 27. The Bear. Once, when Louie was 4 or 5 years old, he had an encounter with a bear. He was outside in the yard when he spotted the bear lurking beside the oak tree near the garage. He wanted to scream, but could not. No sound would come out of his mouth. He wanted to run, but could not. His legs were numb. His arms were numb. He could not move. It was windy. Branches were whipping back and forth, twigs snapping. The bear moved closer to the tree. "Help!" Louis tried to shout. "Help!" But he could only hear the scream in his head. "Maybe if I play dead, the bear will leave me alone. Maybe it will go away." Louis slowly lowered himself to the ground and curled into a ball. He held as still as he could. His arm itched, but he could not scratch it. He needed to cough, but dared not. The wind blew, and the bear was still there, inching closer to the tree. Louis lay still for a long time, so long that he fell asleep. He was awakened by the bear pawing at his shoulder. "No!" Louis shouted. "No! Please, no!" And this time, the words came out of his mouth. And when he opened his eyes, he saw not the bear, but his brother Gus nudging him. "What's the matter with you?" Gus asked. "It's only me. You fall asleep out here?" Louis looked around, searching for the bear. "There!" he shouted. "Watch out! There's a bear!" Gus followed Louis' stare and then slowly moved toward the bear. "No, Gus, don't! Don't!" As Gus continued across the yard, Louis grabbed his arm and tried to pull him back. "Gus, don't!" But Gus kept going, and when he reached the bear, he lifted it up and turned to face Louis. Is this your bear?" He was holding a puffy brown jacket. "It's probably Max," Gus said. "He's always leaving his stuff here." Louis was so relieved that he thought he would faint, but he was also embarrassed. He'd been afraid of a jacket. "Don't tell Mom or Dad," Louis said. "I won't," Gus agreed. "One time I was afraid of a moth." And that is the end of chapter 27.